Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines. 60 million XRP, more pain for Ethereum, and it's not what we talked about this morning. It's something else, believe it or not. Renowned investor says the end of the U.S. dollar. You won't believe who it is and what he says. We're also going to talk about Rosie Rios. Brad Garlinghouse reveals the secret to cross-border market control. Yeah, I think you get it in this clip. And so much more. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow me on Twitter at Dig Perspectives at the top of the screen here, or at Facebook at Digital Perspectives News, where we do lives on Sunday morning. Make sure you give us a like and follow there as well. $1.719 trillion market cap for cryptocurrency, ladies and gentlemen, is March 8, 2022. Let's get into this. We're off by 1.66% collectively for the market cap. But let's understand this. Bitcoin off by 11.43% for the 7-day. Ethereum off by 12.49 on the 7-day. We see right now XRP at the number 6 spot, holding the 7.21% on the 7-day as well. Let's take a look at the range of price. 72 cents currently. We're ranging from 71 on the low side to 74 on the high side. We're going to hear from Coins Kid before we get out of here today. You need to hear what he's got to say. Right now, I want to take a look at this because you guys know I'm such a fan of this. Masterworks.io. For the first time ever, you can invest in multi-million-dollar paintings. Why is it important to me? Well, first of all, I love art. I've always loved art, even as a kid. Second of all, it's the first time I've ever been able, or you or anyone, unless you're a billionaire already, to participate in buying multi-million-dollar art, or better yet, shares of. You can buy and potentially sell shares on the secondary market as well. And when the painting sells, you will get your reward. So this is pretty remarkable. It's very affordable, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking $20 a share, even for the most expensive paintings that are offered in the world. And right now, if you look, contemporary art, and certainly the overall track record here for Masterworks is crushing the S&P 500. And that's what I like to do with my gains. I like to take those gains from crypto, move them into something that's still doing better than the traditional markets, and art is a way to do that. 66% of billionaires collect art, so why aren't you? That's what I ask myself. Guys, you know my core tenet around here. I'm stacking my pennies next to their dollars, and I'm doing the same thing with art and buying shares in it. There you go. There'll be a link under the video. XRP whales move 60 million coins between wallets. You know, if you didn't see the interview with me and Linda P. Jones yesterday, former 25-year Wall Street veteran, author, I tell you, you should go check it out, because one of the things I talk about in there is, will we see XRP relisted in the secondary market? I think it's a yes and no, or at least potentially. I don't know the answer, but maybe we see XRP relisted in the secondary market just to see the liquidity that is there be drained, like draining a pond, right? And then when it's gone, it's gone. And the only people left holding it will be you and I. And maybe at that point, we end up going to a bank to actually sell it when we're ready to. Or maybe we even get a chance to lease it, right? That would be incredible too. But the one thing I understand here is that, you know, Ripple has made this abundantly clear to us that they are not selling programmatic sales to the secondary market, which means they're not selling XRP and have not been selling XRP to exchanges. So I find that interesting, unless they're an on-demand liquidity partner for that purpose. So to me, what I take from that, also understanding that Ripple is also buying back off of the secondary market, that is their way of exercising good fiscal and monetary policy. That's how I see that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after this case ends, which is projected to end this year. Any day for a settlement, and no later than between September and November for a summary judgment. So very exciting to know that this case sometime this year should end, regardless of however many more delays we may or may not get. Warren Davidson says right here, does Elizabeth Warren understand that illicit activity accounts for around 1,024th of total crypto transactions? Or that the giant sanctions loophole for Russian energy is Russia's biggest funding source? Apparently not. Shout out to Warren Davidson, who's laying it down here, while Elizabeth Warren still continues with the gamesmanship in politics here. You know, really, the other week, we saw her a couple weeks ago grill Nellie Liang, the Under Treasury Secretary for the U.S. Treasury. And it was quite interesting to watch that congressional hearing because she really laid it at Nellie Liang's feet that it's on her to do this, not Congress, right? It's on the Treasury and FSOC to come in and deem things systemically important and to do that job because her and Congress are too lazy to do it themselves. They want to get reelected, and they can't get reelected if they make the mistake. So they push the other agencies to do it for them, what they can from their agency chair. And then when that's not right, they can sit back and point the finger and go, well, we told you to do it, but you did it wrong. I tell you, it is sickening to watch politics unfold. Sophisticated traders appear to be wagering that recent pain in Ether may worsen. Forget about the chart and stick to the title in the article here. Ladies and gentlemen, we do know that there is trouble with ETHgate, the corruption we have discovered over the last year and a half. It has been despicable, the things that have been uncovered of Joseph Lubin teaching investors how to disguise their identity and accounts. It's just pathetic. And then on top of it, we now see a case breaking out on the inside of Consensus. Majority shareholders now looking for damages because of the way business has been and has not been handled there. Pretty interesting. We will follow it. You know, all of this really stems to a larger point about Ether and how it got its free pass, because we know that Joseph Grunfest had also sat down days before the lawsuit was dropped. And thanks to TAIG here, the SEC weaponized lawsuit against Ripple. XRP has been going for 442 days now, or to put it in perspective, 1.55% of the average lifespan of a United States citizen. How about that? So if Ether is to be allowed to trade freely in the market, so too must XRP. And if XRP is to be subject to restrictions, so too should Ether. And other results create a competitive imbalance that cannot be rationalized with reference to fair enforcement of federal securities laws. Joseph Grunfest to Jay Clayton on December 17th, 2020, just 3 days before the lawsuit was dropped. How about that one? It just incense, I am incensed when I think of that. However, we got to move on because we know that there's a lot happening here. And I think as we pivot into news here, this is where we get to it. There is a new financial system coming. And I offer you this. It is my speculation. But the new financial system that's coming into place, it is Ripple. It is RippleNet. It is PolySign, standard custody. I do believe this. It is the XRP ledger, which is a decentralized exchange. Look at here what renowned investor Jim Rogers says in this article really quickly as I move through it. He says right here, but what is happening with the U.S. dollar now is the end of the U.S. dollar, he says, because an international currency is supposed to be neutral, but in Washington, they are now changing the rules. Well, listen, let's not any of us be naive here. Washington's never played by the rules, okay? Let's get that out of there. So many countries are starting to look for a competitor. He goes on to say names that we've heard of recent, most of which are in the BRICS coalition: China, Russia, India, Brazil, even cites Iran. Some countries are starting to look for a competing currency. And they should, because Washington doesn't play fair anymore, which they never really did anyway. Since Russia began its invasion into Ukraine, the United States, as well growing number of other countries, have been placing sanctions on Russia. But again, just like the clip that I played for everybody from Jim in this morning's video, Jim Rickards, go watch that video. You know, he says the same thing unfolded in 1998. They had sanctions that went out on Russia, but because all of these banks and partners around the world are connected at the hip, there's a cascading effect. Right? This is not siloed islands we're talking about here. These banks in the financial world and the global economy are exactly that. They're global. So once it starts happening one place, it really becomes systemic as it moves through. And they had to really come up with a solution back then to keep things from happening. So there was a bailout, apparently. So going on to that point here, it says here, Russia has about 16% of its reserves in US dollars, 32% in euros. As billionaire Bill Miller recently described, they have almost 50% of the reserves in currencies that are controlled by people who want to do them harm. Miller agrees with Rogers that the other countries are starting to look for alternative currencies to the US dollar. All of this is speaking even louder now from different people who are very wealthy, successful investors that are seeing what is on the horizon. And it is the end of the US dollar being the global reserve currency alone, at least alone, right? Because we're hearing about other solutions. So it won't be by itself. So now, this was put out by Ripple here, and this was an article that really came out July 2021 of last year, but I'm only showing it because it talks about CBDCs unlocking endless fiscal policy options. And isn't that really what we're talking about here? And think of this for a moment. Look at the amount of entities. Let me pause this here. Look at the number of entities that Ripple are already working with. This is who we know about, right? We're talking about Bhutan, the Central Bank of Bhutan, Republic of Palau. We know they're on the Digital Pound Foundation. Check. They've just recently joined the European Union Digital Euro Association for the European Union, which represents 27 countries. I mean, think of this for a moment. How much longer before we hear that we're actually with the United States too? Truthfully, we already know we are with the United States because we know that in 2015 to 2017, Ripple was cited in 2017 by the Federal Reserve and the Faster Payments Task Force to be a solution for the financial system and cross-border payments. Don't believe that. It's still true. Now take a look at this. Now, I know some of you may have seen this before, but think of the infrastructure that needs to happen in order for a new financial system to work. It's not just about the countries getting their own central bank digital currencies in their own little private ledgers that can all be interoperable and talk to one another. Obviously, that has to happen, and it is happening. We're seeing it happen. But think about the closed circle, the closed circuit of what needs to happen on a grand scale. Now, I'm not talking about you and I in the retail world. What I'm talking about in the grand scale is that very tight circle of entities that settle the largest amount of business for the rest of the world throughout the course of a day. We're talking about SWIFT. We're talking about the Federal Reserve and the money printing. We're talking about the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. Just having these three entities connected with new infrastructure, which I believe is RippleNet for SWIFT, which I believe is PolySign for DTCC, which I believe can be and probably will end up being Ripple as a central bank with its escrow XRP as a backstop to the Federal Reserve, because the US dollar may come down as the only reserve asset. It may remain, but not by itself. And think about that closed loop, that very tight loop between all of this. Think about the fact that I'm getting ready to play for you this right now, and I want to play this. Let me see if I can get this lined up here and check this out. Yeah, this is it right here, I believe. This is Brad Garlinghouse, and he's going to say exactly what I'm saying to you. Listen to what he says, and we'll talk about it. Check it out.
We're pushing, and also a lot of money attached to those settlements.
For sure. So we have over 100 banks working with Ripple today around the world. I think the vast majority of banks, like 99.9% of banks, actually are paying other banks, the kind of the global money center banks like JP Morgan or Citibank, to make those settlements. So
99% of the banks are paying the other banks to make those payments for settlements. Check it out.
The vast majority of banks, like 99.9% of banks, actually are paying other banks, the kind of the global money center banks like JP Morgan or Citibank, to make those settlements.
So now make the loop of SWIFT and the DTCC and the Fed and add in a couple of the largest banks of the world that are really handling the heavy lifting of the cross-border payments that are being done, because the 99.9% of banks that are making cross-border are going to those small handful of large banks to get it done. Ripple is, I believe, the new financial system. I believe there'll be other protocols too, but I don't think it's a stretch to say, to be honest with you. And to add to that point, it's Rosie Rios, Ripple board member, who reminds us of $1.69 trillion reminder here.
So my name currently appears, well, actually, let's see. There's $1.71 trillion of U.S. currency in circulation worldwide. 1.71 trillion. My name is on $1.69 trillion. So
how about that? You get you some of that. Now, you think Rosie Rios came over from the Treasury so she could have her illustrious career destroyed by someone like Ripple who's hung up in a lawsuit? No. Again, there's no criminal charges here. Again, there's no fraud charges here. This is a civil matter. It's just about really vetting this company, this technology, and the token that is native to the technology, XRP Ledger, which is a decentralized exchange to the world, which will become, I believe, a backbone liquidity sourcing because of the Ripple Liquidity Hub, because everything eventually will plug into it, and through it, it will become the backbone and the lifeblood to source any liquidity for anything that has been tokenized. Take a look right here. This is Raoul Pal, who tells us what he's seeing with the market right now, and it looks more like the March 2020 setup to him. Take a listen.
It feels for crypto very much like the setup in 2020 in March, when we sold off really hard, failed to make a new low versus the low a year and a bit ago prior, and then took off. We haven't made a new low. We've thrown a war at crypto. We've thrown Chinese bans. We've thrown all sorts of stuff. 8% inflation, central bank with an expected 8 rate rises, which is never going to happen. And crypto didn't make a new low. So I think there's a signal there, but again, we need to watch it. I don't think that's the bet to put all your money in right now. All of my money's in it, but I am adding to these other trades.
But what's interesting there is that we're not making new lows. We're making higher lows. And that is something to pay very close attention to. And here's Coins Kid right here, who helps us see that even closer and more up front when it comes to XRP itself. Take a listen.
Looking at XRP on the weekly time frame, then you can see we are under the resistance of the EMAs at the moment. So it's not a good thing. We do need to see a breakout above, holding back test support, and we'll start to tackle that level of resistance again. And it's really important that we close above that, because that for me is confirming a breakout. And like I said to you, if you start to roll and you close outside of this, this is really negative. What's positive here? You've got a low and a higher low, and hopefully right now we're coiling up and we're looking for that breakout, coupled with the fact that the chart looking at XRP versus Bitcoin as well is quite bullish, and coiling up for some kind of price compression. Basically that's how it works. You get price compression, it tights in the range, and then it reacts in either.
And there you have it. And if you look at what's happening on the chart, just like he's showing you, we're not hitting newer lows. We're hitting higher lows. And if we can get back up over these EMAs here, it's going to be nothing but good news for a bullish signal for us to break out. That much I've learned from him and others. And that's where we're going to put it today. I also want to tell you about this. Don't forget about iTrust Capital, ladies and gentlemen. The best crypto, gold, silver IRA on the planet, bar none. No monthly fees. They're gone. You can transfer your crypto IRA directly to iTrust. No charge right there. And they have incredible reviews because they have incredible service. Make sure you check them out. And all the links in the description box and comment section. Great products and services I use each and every day. I love iTrust. And I love the returns it gives me because they're tax-free, baby. Yeah, I'll catch all of you on the next one.